recorded this. So I want to check, make sure that we are live on Facebook and we are live on YouTube, and then we'll get started. So Robert, can you verify that?
You are live on YouTube. Facebook always takes an extra 30 seconds or so.
Okay, so I'm going to hit the record button because I'm so excited. I am so excited that Dr. Jennifer Grameth has decided she's coming on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show Classroom every month to share her knowledge. And so today is her first, even though she comes on all the time, today is her first day that she is coming on as a sponsor. She's standing with the Lillian McDermott Radio Show and saying, I believe in this. I want to be a part of it. And it's a glorious day. I'm excited. So today we're going to talk about how to jumpstart or kickstart our lymphatic system for this new year. So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. It's time to dance, Dr. Grameth.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning in to the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you could go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, like I said earlier, I'm excited that Dr. Grameth is here as a sponsor. She's here to stand with the classroom. And I mentioned before, I am not taking sponsors. And the reason why is because if I don't know about them, it's easy to pretend who they are. But I do know Dr. Grameth, and it was just such a thrilling call when she says, I'm ready to stand by you. And so today we're going to talk about how to kick off our lymphatic system for the year, how to work with our endocrine system and know that this is what we do to clog it up. This is what we do to clean it up. This is what we do to maintain it. And Dr. Jennifer Grameth is here, as she has in the past and here today, to help us through these step-by-step instructions and how to get our health back. So since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Grameth is here to do just that. Welcome back. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I always love being on your show. I learn a lot, and I'm just grateful that I can share the knowledge that I have had over the last 25 years of working in this industry. And then prior to that in the, mainstream medicine. So, yeah.
Well, I love the fact that you bring that combination. So share a little bit about your background. And I know you have shared it before. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, you can just search for Dr. Grameth in the classroom. And we have all sorts of topics that you can revisit so that you can learn and grow. So Dr. Grameth, share a little bit about your background. What led you to go from allopathic medicine to where you're at today?
So we all have our story, right? And I was on the path of mainstream medicine, nursing, working in cardiology, oncology, and internal medicine. And I thought I had it all figured out, knew what my future held. So I thought, and then my father was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. and it changed my life, and it changed my life for the better, and so not many people can say that a crisis in their life can change their life for the better, but I believe that it always does. You learn something every time you go through a crisis, and I learned that everything that I was taught was great, but wasn't the whole picture, wasn't the answer, and it certainly wasn't the answer to my father recovering. And so it changed my entire journey. And, fortunately for him, I worked with a medical director that was big into holistic medicine and said, Jennifer, why don't you try this? And I said, well, is it valid? Is it quackery? And he said, just try it. You have nothing to lose, because my father was only given 2 months to live at this point after chemotherapy and radiation. And I said, okay, let's do it. And I had prayed about it, and I felt at peace about it, but I didn't really believe in it. And so we started on that journey of just getting rid of the toxins and we're going to talk about this today, because the lymphatic system is the key system in people recovering, because it's the very system that holds your immune system. So with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, he had lymph nodes the size of oranges and like grapefruit in his abdomen. He was a crop duster and had the chemicals that we spray on our food that we put in our body, sprayed on him directly. And that's what they attributed his cancer with, was the high exposures of pesticides.
Wow. The body is so perfectly made. I was sharing with you that, even though I tripped and really sprained my ankle on Monday, I walked on my foot. I did a bunch of stuff. And by the end of the night, I felt the pain. But the body, if I got off my foot and iced it and do the things, that the body responds so well. And I know that that's a simple explanation when it comes to chemicals. So when it comes to chemicals, what do chemicals do in this lymphatic system? What will it cause it to do?
Right. So the first thing that it causes is thickness. So your lymphatic fluid should look like a glass of water. And your lymphatic vessels are so tiny. Some of them are just the size of a few strands of hair. So when you have exposures to environmental toxins, or even just you're stressed out and that creates inflammation, that any inflammatory pattern in your body causes congestion. It causes that fluid to congeal. And so then it looks like gelatin, and then it can go for so long and look like cottage cheese, and then it can even become fibrotic. And so, the lymphatic system and that fluid carries your T cells, your B cells, your macrophages, your army of defense that fights off any pathogen exposure that you have. It uses, it binds with toxins and takes it out of the body if it can circulate. And the problem that we have is that the mass majority of people have a compromised, congested lymphatic system and don't even know it.
Okay, so what are the symptoms? If they don't even know it, are there symptoms that we're ignoring?
So, yeah, and this is the problem, is because most people think it's normal to walk around tired all the time. And they'll say, oh, I'm getting old, I'm just tired. And then, or they'll say, I get headaches a lot, but I'm under a lot of stress. Or I have pain. Anywhere on your body you have pain, whether it's in your joints, in your tissue, in your muscle, that is because of inflammation and congestion in the lymphatic system, constipation, insomnia, fibromyalgia. You name it, it goes back to the lymphatic system being the main issue. So, but the lymphatic system itself is not the issue. It's the exposures that you have that clog up the lymphatic system. So we have total control over if our lymphatic system works or it doesn't work, how strong our immune system is or not, how fast we can circulate it or not. And so we've created this terrain in our body that's just conducive to, disease. And that's why you see the rate of disease go up and up, and especially in children, you're seeing a higher rate of disease because their little brains and their little organs are still forming. And just think of the toxic burdens that they have. I mean, if you look at the Environmental Working Group, did that study, and they tested the umbilical cord blood.
Yeah.
And I mean,
287, was it? Is
yeah,
that
it's almost 300. And that's only because they only tested 400. There's hundreds of thousands that's been put out in our environment. And so just imagine, they come in the world already toxic. And so that can cause really long lasting disorders and diseases. And so we really have got to watch what we give our children. So all you moms and dads out there, it can be more dangerous for your child to eat the non-organic foods than it is for you because they have developing brains. Okay,
and from the moment they're born and they're attached to the umbilical cord, they have all the toxins through that umbilical cord being passed to the baby. And then we wonder, and I know this is so horrible. We have all these kids that are getting sick. And of course, nobody wants to take credit for that or blame for that. Because, I mean, can you imagine the horror I would feel if my child was sick and to find out that I passed that on to my child? I don't know if I could forgive myself, that type of mentality. So it's a lot easier to say, oh, it just happened. Just, just like you got banged on the head. It just happened. And it's something that is in our body. And people today are getting detoxifying before getting pregnant.
And that's smart. And that's really what we have to do as a community is we have to educate, because it's really not the fault of the mom and the dad and the parents, other than, that as a society that we have sheltered them from truth.
Yes.
And so we act like, you see the commercials, a little bit of fructose is not bad, a little bit of, corn syrup, it has mercury in it. I mean, they shut down schools when you break open mercury now, or a light bulb, breaks. And so you can't say that, that's safe. And so Cheerios, I mean, they're feeding our little babies, we're feeding them Cheerios to pacify them, and they are sprayed so heavily with glyphosate. And that's a neurotoxin, and it's a gastric toxin. And so you just wonder, in the future to come. I mean, it's bad now, but it's going to get worse if we don't start changing the way that we view health and how we attain health. Yes. And so it starts, and there's 4 things I want to talk about today on how to kickstart your lymphatic system for 2021. This is a year of change. This is a year that we need to really pay attention and seek truth in all aspects of our life, but especially in our own health and the health of our children. And so the number one issue that I see coming in my office with these chronically ill patients, whether they're children, young adults, or elderly, is they're dehydrated. And so dehydration, and people think, oh, that's no big deal. Dehydration is a huge deal, and should be the first thing that you address, is to make sure that you're drinking at least half your weight in ounces, okay? Because most people, when they're dehydrated, and if you listen to Dr. Zach Bush, which I know you do, and I do, and he's a genius, and I've loved him for years, he'll tell you the same as me, 100% of our patients are dehydrated. What does dehydration cause?
Wow, 100%.
It causes kidney failure. It causes liver failure. It causes inflammation in your gut. It causes brain fog. It causes inflammation in your brain. And so that's huge. It's not a little bit, it's huge. Everybody's dehydrated. So start there, hydrate yourself. Another fact that I found out was that the average young youth only drinks about, I think it was 15 ounces. Yeah, it was 15 ounces according to the Center of Disease Control a day. And so that's fine if you're 30 pounds, but not when you're a 150-pound teenager. Yeah. And, they're just drinking 15 ounces of water a day on average. That's dangerous. Yes. And another fact that I found, Lillian, I think you'll find this funny, is that when you drive dehydrated, it's as if you're driving, under the influence. Have you heard that?
Yeah, no, I have not heard that. But what I will tell you is that dehydration can cause confusion, like you said, depression, anxiety, and people don't realize that the body is a well-oiled machine. It is perfectly made by our Creator, and just like when you buy a car, we read everything about the car. Do we put gas? What kind of gas do we put in it? We would never stray from that. We would never do that. And once every so often, we put the oils and whatever in the water and all the stuff that the car needs. But we don't do that for ourselves. So, we get surprised when our body breaks down.
I know, and that was actually a study they did in UK, and they actually tested a group of people that were dehydrated and a group that had 2 to 3 drinks, and then how many mistakes, and it was equal, and the equal amount of errors. So when you are dry, so that's food for thought right there.
Wow.
So I thought that was really interesting too. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the cardiologist that wrote the book Paleo Cardiologist. It's Dr. Wolfson. He's from Arizona and I think Illinois, but he was an ER doctor, emergency room. And he was saying that 70% of the patients coming in there with kidney stones and kidney failure, it was because of dehydration. That's a huge number. And so there's a lot of people you hear about struggle yearly with kidney stones, and that's a very painful, disease process, and it will weaken your kidneys if you don't control it. And they think, well, it's maybe due to drinking too much soda. Yes, because it dehydrates you and it depletes you of the critical magnesium that your body needs. And so you're robbing yourself of these critical minerals. And the deficiencies is what leads to the disease process or the inflammation that eventually leads to the disease process.
Wow.
And so hydration, I can't stress it enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just, 70% of your symptoms will go away with just hydrating yourself properly. And so the minimum is half your body weight. Now, if you're working out, it needs to be more than that,
Mm-hmm.
And so that is something that I think is important that I'd like to see change.
What if you eat like I eat a nutritarian diet lifestyle, and I have a lot of soups, and I have a lot, like Robert does a lot of juicing, and we drink a lot. I only drink water, and once in a while I'll have coconut water and maybe put a little bit of splash of pomegranate juice and have a mocktail, things like that. So with that in mind, soups, juices, do they work like water?
They all have water in them. So it is, water, but you still need to drink just water on top of that as well.
Okay.
But I couldn't say that, if you're drinking, like, you're juicing, you're getting a high water content. It's mostly water.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the juices,
right.
The fruit juices that you buy in a can or a plastic jar in the store. I'm talking about actually taking a vegetable and then you go through the whatever that place is, the hole, and it comes out juice. A miracle happens. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we've had Dr. Jerry Pollack say that that's the best kind of water to have, but you still need water. So
you need both. You need both for sure.
Yes. Okay. So hydration. And for those of you who have questions, type in a Q. And whenever I see that, and if it's a part of what we're talking about now, I will ask the question. But if it's not, we'll wait till afterwards. We have a little bit of time on the Teacher's Pet Corner. So if you have a question and we haven't addressed it, that's when we will address it. Okay. So I know that you have 4 things that you want us to be mindful of. But before we go to 2, I have a question. I've had this question. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. How many lymph nodes do we have? And what is because you said it was like a couple of strands of hair. That's pretty tiny. How much do we have of these strands in our body?
So the lymph nodes can range anywhere between 700 to 1500 if you look at the textbook. So, that is actually the more lymph nodes that you actually have, the less toxicity, or the less the rate of toxicity builds up in you, because you have more
Great.
filters. Okay, so
Okay.
they're considered a little filter. And so sometimes there's a disturbance in pregnancy when you're developing your lymphatic system, where you don't get full development. So you may have only a fewer amount of lymph nodes.
Mhm.
And so those are the individuals who seem to be, their tolerance level to their environment is just very, very low. And so they start to become symptomatic early on. So that's how come you see, two people with the same diet lifestyle. This one's sick at, 12, and this one, is 70 and not showing a whole lot of symptoms. Okay. It's because one has a stronger immune system and can tolerate more accumulation than the other one. And so we all have our tipping point. Our immune system can be here as long as our toxic burden's below what your immune system can tolerate. You're symptom free, you're disease free. It's when it starts to build up and it starts to suppress our immune system. This is when you're symptomatic. So we all have to balance ourselves by reducing our toxic burdens and what's causing that, and get it below what our immune system can handle. We're never going to be totally free of bacteria, virus, fungus, heavy metals. But we just got to keep the load below what our immune system can tolerate wherever your immune system is.
Yes.
As far as the vessels, they're very similar to the circulatory system. So they're all over the body. Okay. And the vessels go from very, very tiny, like a few strands of hair, to the largest one being the size of a piece of yarn. It's called the thoracic duct. It starts in the umbilicus, runs up, and it's what dumps into the into the circulatory system by the vena cava, and it runs parallel to your aorta. And so that's how your lymph dumps into your circulatory system. And so if your lymph is congested and inflamed and it dumps into your heart, then your blood will become congested. All right. So then you have that blood slug, erythrocyte irrigation or rouleau. And then your nutrients don't get to the organs, glands, and cells fast enough. So it just slows everything down. It's like trying to deliver, nutrients in the sea of gelatin. It takes forever to get where it needs to be. And so then we become very malnourished and very deficient. And so that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem, and it is what causes disease.
Okay. So 700 to 1500, that's a huge variance. To me, that is a huge variance. How do I know I have 1500, not 700? Is this something that grows with me as I am healthy, or I'm born with it?
It's all determined when you're in the pregnancy stages. And so you can do a lot with your immune system as far as development until puberty. And then after puberty, it's kind of set in stone. And that's when we kind of just have to, you kind of start to know where their immune system lies by how quickly they become symptomatic. And so the younger that you are, the more, and they're starting to be symptomatic, that they probably have a more compromised immune system. And by that, I mean, they probably have fewer lymph nodes. And so they may have a lot of toxicity coming into this world. And then just with the, we're giving our children 70 vaccines, before they're an adult. We're crippling, in my opinion, we're crippling their immune system. And that's one reason, because that's laid with heavy metals and all types of chemicals and things that are foreign to the body, that is constantly distracting our immune system, trying to get rid of. And we just become more and more inflamed. And you can go to a public school and look at the kids in the classroom. They're all falling asleep. Half of the class or more are obese. They can't concentrate. They have ADD, ADHD, diabetes, or half of them are walking around pre-diabetic. And it's such a young age. It's a shame. It's actually a crime, on our children. Yeah. And it's due to what we put in the foods that they ingest every day from, birth on. And so especially, when you start to bottle feed if you're feeding them the soy-based, supplement, don't, stay away from soy. Soy is toxic to you in so many ways. And so there's
soy
it
isolate
starts very early. Huh?
Soy isolate is what they put in formulas, and soy isolate is the worst form of soy, and it probably isn't organic or non-GMO.
No, most definitely is not. Most definitely is not. And so what does soy do? What's the one thing most people know soy does? It blocks the absorption of iodine to the thyroid, causing thyroid disease. And so now look at the problem that we have with all these endocrine disorders. Your thyroid controls a lot of different other systems and triggers inflammation in your body. So right off the bat, we're starting this cascade of inflammation. We're gumming up their endocrine system. And in their organs, like I said earlier, their organs, it's so bad because their organs are just developing. And so you're locking it in there, and so we really have to wake up. There's so many studies published on this and the pesticides in our food. I've just found out the other day that they're spraying our melons with Deca, and that is a flame retardant. We're eating flame. So we're wearing clothes with flame retardants, and now we're eating.
Why would they spray a melon with flame retardant?
I don't know. I mean,
can you wash it off?
Worst case scenario. Not well, because it's absorbed fairly rapidly. So no, but it just shows you how chaotic things have become and how it's just really, people don't care anymore. And you show them the research. You can't say there's not enough research on it. There's research that links these pesticides, glyphosate, Deca, the herbicides, anything that will kill, insects is going to eventually kill you. Anything that's going to kill plants, like the herbicides, is going to kill you if you ingest it over time. And so in the US, the FDA, we are really only looking at the lethal dose. And you've heard me mention this before. So if you eat an apple and it doesn't kill you and it's been sprayed heavily with pesticides, then it's safe. Okay, well, we know better than that. It's the accumulation of those pesticides over time that have been linked to heart disease, the number one killer. Okay, heart disease, not just linked, but is the cause of heart disease, is the cause of diabetes, is the cause of cancer. It has been linked to all of these chronic disease, the top 3 in our nation, and then many, many more. They've all been linked to these pesticides that we are just forcing in our body every day. It's bad enough that we have exposure in our water and in our environment, but now we're putting it in our body and digesting it. And we wonder why so many people have dysbiosis and all this gut issue. I mean, how many people have you heard just lately complaining about gastric issues? I see it every day. And I would say probably 85% or 90% of the patients have terrible, terrible gut health. This is why.
Wow. I'm glad I asked that question, because it helps us see, because there's a lot of people that remove their lymph nodes if they have cancer. And I've spoken to people that saying, don't ever remove a lymph node. And there are other people that say, oh, you need to take it out. And so we'll get to, do you have an opinion on that one?
I do.
Okay.
So, the reason that, and I understand the reason why, we started just doing radical lymph node removal, because, when you find a mass, a cancerous tumor in a person, and you're looking around that, you're seeing what stage the cancer is in. So when it gets into the lymph nodes, you're in latter stages. And so they're going to take the lymph nodes around the mass and they're going to test them first. So they're going to biopsy them. And if they have cancer cells, they're going to want to remove it, because they believe that, for the longest, they have believed that cancer travels through the lymphatic system, and that the lymphatic system was the problem. So let's just remove it, because, that's what we do. If you have a symptom, in your gallbladder or in your appendix or in your tonsils, you got a sore throat, let's just remove it, problem solved. Well, no, that's, the tonsils, the organs, the glands, they don't cause the problem. The problem is exposures, it's emotions, it's all these other stressors. That's the problem. And so that's laziness on our part as practitioners, that we just want to treat their symptom. We want to get rid of the symptom, because if we get rid of their symptom, they say, oh, I feel better, doc. But yet, day after day, month after month, year after year, they're getting sicker and sicker, and then are surprised when they have a diagnosis of diabetes, a diagnosis of heart disease or cancer. And so it's a big problem. So if you can save your lymph nodes, most definitely, because you're going to make yourself even more sensitive to your environment, because you have less of those filters. And so you're going to slow down your immune response, because your lymphatic system is the system that holds your immune system and circulates it, which keeps you from getting cancer, keeps you from chronic disease if it's functioning properly, because it's your, it's that network that is your army of defense.
Wow.
So when pathogens come in, if you have no defense, it just takes over your body.
Amazing. Amazing. And the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump.
Right. Yep. And that's a big problem, because we live such sedentary, stressful lives, and we work all day, sit behind a desk. We're cutting off some of our regional lymph nodes, like the inguinal lymph nodes, so you're not getting good circulation up into your deeper lymphatic system, which is where 70% of your immune system lies. Plus, you're getting the radiation from computers on your chest, your abdomen, and your legs. And again, that's where 70% of your immune system lies. So you're compromising it by living a sedentary lifestyle. And then we go home, and what do? We lay on the couch, or we, are exhausted and we go to bed. And so there's no exercise, no movement. And our fluid in our lymphatic system just gets thicker and thicker. And we wonder why we just feel, running. And that's why.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So okay, go ahead. I don't know. We have a little delay here. So, okay, let's go to number 2, because I know there's a lot of questions and I want to get to the questions, but let's go to number 2.
Number 2 is organic diet. This is something, we've kind of already brushed on this because of the pesticides, but you can't get well if you continue to put in your body the very things that have caused you to be sick. And so, you have got to, it's not an option of maybe I can just do a few things. I've learned with people who are dealing with any chronic disease process, you really have to jump in both feet. You can't do a little bit here and then, a little bit here. And it just doesn't work well. You've got to shut off all of those faucets that are pouring inflammation in your body, and that is a big one. And so, if you look and do just a little bit of research, you're going to find thousands of articles, peer-reviewed articles in very prestigious journals talking about the dangers of our food and pesticides and herbicides, and that it causes brain death, so dementia, Alzheimer's, any kind of neurological issue is caused from a lot of these pesticides that we're eating. It causes all the gastric issues. Follow Dr. Zach Bush and learn more about your gut and the biome and the terrain of the gut, and how, majority of people have leaky gut. And so that's why we're so malnourished. Now, we don't think we're malnourished because we live in such a society with a lot of obesity, but they are the most malnourished people. So it's not just looking at, people with anorexia or things like that. No, they're more malnourished. And so I think, if you want to really get into the studies, there's 25 million deaths worldwide due to the pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides that we're exposed to. They are the cause of death because they're causing the cardiovascular disease. They're causing the diabetes and the cancer and many, many other immune disorders. So
see, that to me is a pandemic. That to me should be treated like they've treated the pandemic. Yeah, put a mask on your face so that you don't eat anything but organic, so that you're not, it keeps you, it's like, oh, wait, this isn't organic, so I shouldn't take my mask off. So,
Exactly.
maybe I would join the bandwagon, but outside of that, I just can't. Okay, so yes, we know about these things, but yet people are buying processed foods that have aluminum in them, that are highly processed, have lots of sugar, lots of salt, corn fructose or fructose corn syrup. There's so many things that we're doing. If we were to just really just take the veil off and really truly see that we are not eating food and we're not giving our kids food. So the nutrients that the body needs, we're not getting. Just not seeing it. We're just not seeing it. Okay, so before we move forward, I just want to encourage all of you because I normally say this at the beginning, but I want all of you to be a part of the growth of the classroom. And I've told this to Dr. Grameth, she knows this as well, that because we're sharing new truths, the algorithms are being garbled so that people don't even know we're on. It is part of our duty to share and like and follow and tag and text and email these classes so that you can expose people to these new truths. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to heal, is to remove the veil. Because unless you're willing to look at these new truths, you're going to continue believing a lie. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com because we don't know how long we're going to be on this wonderful platform that we have the privilege of sharing these new truths. So please go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe so that you know what's next for the classroom if needed. Also BitChute, and I'm looking at Gab and all these other places that say that they will not censor. So stay tuned and please do your part there. So the next thing I want you to do is go check out my sponsors like Dr. Jennifer Grameth. She is also going to be doing telemedicine. So if you have any questions for Dr. Grameth, you can go to Right Way Health A&D and Wellness.com, and you are able to reach out to her. You're able to reach out to other sponsors like Live Long, Geyer Wellness, and Keep Me Safe Organics. Dr. Grameth has Lily Rose, which, by the way, this is a new color. This is a new color. Anyway, we have First Alternative Care, Keep Me Safe Organics, Lily Rose. We have the pharmacy in Merritt Island. All of these, when you go onto the sponsors and my affiliate sponsors, you get discounts and all these wonderful gifts. But mostly you get to learn new truths. So check out my sponsors and see how you can help them the way that they are helping the classroom. And last but not least, you are an enrolled student. You can be an enrolled student in the classroom. You can donate whatever you can. That was the model that I went to. And talk about humility. I've never relied on the generosity of the people. And it is just amazing how many people want to be a part of this classroom. And I was told the other day by Rip Esselstyn, he said, these chairs look really uncomfortable. That's the point. We want to be uncomfortable. We want to be outside of our comfort zone. I may maybe do a little background with a little cushy chair, but then what we're going to be doing, we're going to be too comfortable. So check out Dr. Grameth at Right Way Health and Wellness. And all our sponsors. We're all a part of this classroom. This is our classroom. Go to rightwayhealthandwellness.com. Also, there's a lot of things going on in the classroom, like we have the 50 lessons from the Exodus. On February 5th, 6th, and 7th, I'm doing my weekend workshop called I Am the Solution. And I encourage all of you. It was so powerful, the first one we did, and this is going to be even better. So we've been waiting for you to join that one. And that's February 5th, 6th, and 7th. And then finally, if you want the DVD, we started the process of ordering the DVD, and you can also get the online version of the book, the New Truth Series, Book of Revelation. So much that's happening that I never even anticipated. Can you imagine, Dr. Grameth, all the things that are happening today that we have access to, but we refuse to look at?
Yep, Exactly. Yeah, and that's a real problem too. And you wonder, or I wonder, why is that? Why is it that we do know these things? Down deep, God put in us to know truth and recognize truth. And so, but why do we, have behaviors and habits that goes totally against our truth?
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of the emotional, part of it, and really getting down to asking yourself questions about why you do certain things. Why
Yeah.
do you, feel it's necessary to
Yeah.
sabotage every diet that you've been on? Or where in your life do you feel unworthy, undeserving of health? And so those are really hard questions that a lot of times we don't want to have to think about because we've suppressed them for so long. And, our body is remarkable, and all these symptoms, or these things that happen that we call symptoms, they are God's way of saying, hey, something's not quite right. Pay attention, to that. And then we want to just cover it up with, a pharmaceutical, a pill for every ill, as Dr. Marlene Seagal always says.
Yeah.
That's the mindset of most people, is just give me something, just give me a pill. But they don't realize how dangerous it is to cover up that little light that's trying to warn you that something greater is about to happen,
Yeah.
and it's not good. And
Yeah.
so we don't want to cover up those symptoms with pharmaceutical drugs. We want to know what's going on in our body. And so thank your body that it's functioning enough to let you know when something is wrong. And so that gets us to the third issue. So you want to hydrate yourself. Definitely start with that. That's the first step of this new year. Make sure you're hydrated every day. Okay.
Yes.
And then start switching your diet to 100% organic. You'll never regret it. People think it's way too expensive. It is not.
Compared to the hospital bill, it won't
To
be.
your hospital and pharmaceutical drugs, it is
Yeah.
definitely not going to be. And just, quality of life. And then the next step is that because we live in this toxic world, we've got to practice detox. So it's not enough just to eat well. There is Dr. Wolfson actually stated, he says, sickness is not just caused by not enough good things, it's also, the bad things. And so we focus on, what to eliminate out of your diet. We don't necessarily focus in on how much of the good stuff you need to pour in. And so sometimes people are misguided in thinking, well, if I just stop sugar or gluten, I'm good. No, it's not enough. You have to pour in that 12 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, because you have to have the nutrition that makes your body work. And that's your fuel. And, the average person eats maybe 2 to 3 vegetables a day, and they're over processed, they're non-organic. And so again, this is our society is starving to death. And, literally, because they are not putting enough nutrition in. So yes, you got to get the garbage out, and that's how you detox. Detox is about getting the garbage out, but you got to be pouring the nutrition in at the same time to really thrive and to be healthy. So detox, detox, detox. I love Dr. Sherry Rogers wrote a book called Detox or Die. She's very blunt. And there's so much truth to that. Because if you do not detox on a regular basis, because you're having these exposures to hundreds of chemicals, heavy metals daily, and people are like, where are they coming from? Well, everything around you, the food that you're eating. If you're drinking non-organic coffee, you're getting a lot of metals, you're getting a lot of pesticides. They're heavily, heavily sprayed with pesticides that are very damaging. And so you're heating those pesticides and you're just drinking, cup after cup, you're dehydrating your body, and then you're putting in lead and, all kinds of, toxins. And just like on our women, especially, put on hundreds of toxins if you're not using organic products on your body a day. And we wonder why we all have such hormone imbalances. And it's because of those products, our hair, our makeup, the lotions. We put on hundreds of different known carcinogens, which can come up your endocrine system, and your endocrine system runs the show.
Yeah.
And so it's how your heart beats, how you digest, it runs everything.
Yeah.
And then, it's causing cancer. It's a known carcinogen. And so, and then we act like we're shocked because we were diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we've got to wake up. We got to pull our head out of the sand, and we got to take control over our health again. And you do that by detox. And so there's different ways you can detox, but I'm going to give you some tools that anybody can do to start the detox process. You don't have to necessarily, unless you're already in a state of chronic disease, you don't have to seek out someone like myself, as a preventative. And prevention is the key to really shifting this paradigm. Okay. And so chlorella, chlorella is so inexpensive, and it is just an algae that is chocked full of nutrients, B12, vitamin C, iron, all of your minerals. I mean, these are the things we're deficient.
I have it at home, and how do you, it just smells like pond scum. How do you?
Pond scum.
Because it is pond scum. That's why. Okay. But how do you ingest it? How do you digest it?
I usually get the tablets and have my clients. You can get it in powder form and throw it in a smoothie. Powder. Yeah. You can throw it in a gelatin capsule if you don't like the taste, or you can.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, throw it in a smoothie because it does have a harsh taste, but
you get used to it.
Yeah, 5 little tablets, 3 times a day is a great average dose. It really depends on your body weight, how much you should. And then your exposures, like if you're going out to eat sushi, I would take extra right after I eat to find the mercury, that's in that sushi. And so doing that as a preventative, to just constantly daily be binding these toxins, because it is a form of chelation. And chelation means claw, and it's going to grab those toxins that you've been exposed to, and it's going to flush out through the kidney and bladder without damage to your vital organs. And so it's a very inexpensive. Most people can afford to add that. You're talking $15, $30 a month, and just do that at least 5 days a week. You can take 2 days off so your body doesn't acclimate to it so quickly. But that's something that you should do. And what people don't realize too is that, chlorella it's about 50 to 60% protein. And it's a great absorbable protein that your body knows what to do with. And so, people always say, oh, if I don't eat meat, I'm not going to get any protein. That's not true. It's very high in protein. And I usually use Premier Research because you want to make sure that it's organic and that it's free and clear of any kind of pesticides and heavy metals as well. And so Premier Research is a good one.
You have it on your website?
Not yet, but it will be
Okay.
But anybody can order this from my office. The one that I really like too is Biotics Research.
Okay.
And it's a little tablet. You might like it.
Okay.
It's easy to take. And even children, you should be giving chlorella to your children to help chelate the toxins out of them that they're exposed to.
Wow. Great information. Great information. What else can we do?
So another thing that you can do is, different types of therapies at home. So, it used to be a practice to do sauna therapy. And every family had saunas. And so sweating actually helps your body to eliminate toxins. So you want to sweat. And I can't tell you how many people tell me that they can't sweat. They don't sweat. Yeah. And it's, and that's a problem because your skin is your largest elimination organ. So if you're not sweating, you're just accumulating these toxins. I mean, that's why we sweat, is to rid our body of heat and toxins. And you can test sweat on individuals who are doing a series of sauna therapy, and you'll find all kinds of pesticides, heavy metals, industrial chemicals in it. And so our body is really working hard trying to get rid of it. But we keep, sabotaging it with our lifestyle. And so, sweating is good. And if you don't have a sauna, do Epsom salts and peroxide baths, because that pulls those toxins out. And if you throw a little ginger in it, Lillian, ginger is very good for your lymphatic system, and it will cause you to start sweating even after the bath. So a lot of people will do the bath with ginger, and then they'll get out and they will take another shower, like a cold shower.
What about your private parts? Because ginger is kind of stingy.
Well, it's the ginger essential oil. So if you're in a tub,
Oh,
you're
okay.
putting about 5 drops. So it's not direct, because that would burn, because it is a hot oil.
Thanks.
But I'm sure somebody's tried that. And then another thing is, just like we talked about earlier, you've got to move. Exercise, it doesn't need to be excessive. It should not be excessive, Lillian, because excessive exercise causes inflammation. And so, everything's about balance. Have you noticed that? Everything's about balance in your life. And so, unfortunately, though, when you start exercise and you get past the, I don't want to do it stage, and you get into a rhythm, people feel so good that they want to just, get excessive with it. You really don't need more than an hour of exercise a day to be healthy. And so walking, it doesn't matter what you do, just don't overdo it.
Yes.
But you got to move. The problem isn't that there's so many people excessively exercising. The problem is nobody's exercising hardly. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time there. And then for those cases that are more into the chronic disease state, that's when you need to seek out a functional practitioner like myself, who really is an investigator, and we're going to look for the cause. And then we can do things like the assisted lymphatic therapy, which is, it's been the cornerstone of my.
And you teach people to do that. So you're the best.
I train, certify all over the world. And so this is a therapy now in about 15 cancer clinics in Asia. It's all over the United States. So it's becoming more and more common. Assisted lymphatic therapy is just using a machine to decongest your lymph for you very quickly, so we can circulate your immune system and get it where it needs to be to fight whatever pathogen or toxin that you've been exposed to. And so that's something that you can seek out, and you can find all the therapists on our website for that. But so, that hydration, organic diet, and then regular detox is so, so important. And you can do things like EDTA, and, oral EDTA is available now. And I have patients to do that, 5 days on, 2 days off.
What is EDTA?
It's chelation.
Another form of chelation.
It's a stronger form of chelation, usually with a lot of doctors given through the IV. And that's the quickest way. And that's when you're in a crisis situation and you have blocked arteries, then I would say do IV. But you would need IV if you would do oral chelation, because that you're being exposed to these heavy metals. Most people are using deodorant, and younger kids are using deodorant with aluminum in it, which closes up your axillary lymph nodes. And, that's a heavy metal. And then look at the vaccines. Look at the food that has all the metals. Look at all the products that we put on our bodies. So, there's lead and, aluminum and arsenic, all in our diet, all in our environment. And so you need to be chelating. And so you can do it with that. Zeolite is another one that you can use too.
Okay.
And so the supplement support is that fourth thing, that you need to hydrate, change your food, change your diet to organic, everything. I used to be a little bit lenient on that and say, well, it's mainly
30 dozen, clean 15. Yeah.
Yeah, I no longer. You really need to. I mean, it's getting worse and worse every year with the toxicity, and I'm seeing younger and younger people developing cancer and, having masses in their neck, and it's scary. So no more. You just need to switch. You need to jump both feet in. You need to change the way you think about things. There are these types of supplements that help support you in the detox process. And by doing that, you can make a huge difference on your health and the health of your family. And so those are, it's inexpensive. the easy things. There's no excuse not to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're having a problem with the mindset, I am the solution. Focus from the moment we come together, we focus on the detoxifying of the mindset, because that's what keeps us sabotaging ourselves. Now, Dr. Grameth is in Georgia. Woodstock, Georgia. So if you want to go visit her, it's just a quick little drive, or you can call her at 404-474-2100. That's 404-474-2100. We're going to answer your questions after the class right now with the teacher's pet. So I hope you've been able to hang on. We just wanted to get all the information that we possibly can for the podcast for you, for those of you who are listening on the podcast or BitChute or in any place that we upload later on. You can join us live at whenyounneedafriend.com and click Facebook or YouTube. Dr. Grameth, I am so excited about having these monthly conversations because people are thirsty for the truth. They know that we've been living a lie and it's time for new truth. So thank you so much, not only for coming today, but for becoming a sponsor too. And for those of you, hang on, because we're going to continue the conversation. You guys have lots of questions. I see them down, and we're going to answer them one by one. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Jennifer Grameth wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Here we go.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
All right.
Okay. So we have such smart, wanting to take your health back. It's January. It's the beginning of the year. And one of the reasons I'm doing the I Am the Solution in February is because people think they can do it on their own. But the way that we have treated our bodies keep us addicted. I don't know if that makes sense. We keep ourselves addicted by the way that what we've put in our body that affects our brain affects our thoughts and affects our actions. So that's what we talk about. So I want to encourage you to check out and it's worldwide. It's virtual. So you can anywhere around the world. I hope you can join us. Okay. So the first question is from Yvonne Tan, and she's from Indonesia. You have doctors over there, don't you, Dr. Grameth?
Yes.
You have some doctors that you've trained all over the world. Okay, she says, I believe I have a quite sluggish lymphatic system, but not oversized lymph. My wounds on my skin wouldn't heal. So some as long as greater than a year. The skin itches on its own at time without any allergy, obvious bites or obvious. I scooted up and without at times. So without bites at times. My skin feels like has constant new set of blisters every 2 weeks. Several people suggested it's likely from a sluggish lymphatic system. I once got bitten by a mosquito and several parasitic insects a few years back. The rest of the body only got a lot worse from scars. Aside from dry brushing, popular method from internet sources for lymphatic, are there any ways to improve my condition?
Yeah, that's the assist. She's the typical patient that you would want to do assisted lymphatic therapy on. But let's go back. So you have, she's talking about having a lot of symptoms in the skin. So her superficial lymphatic system, which is directly underneath your skin, is very congested. And that's why she's seeing congestion there, not so much in the lymph nodes, which could be considered the deeper. She probably does have congestion there. She just doesn't realize it yet. But that superficial accounts for 70% of your lymphatic system, but it is the superficial part of the system. And that's not where the majority of your immune system lies. But when it's congested, you know automatically that the deeper lymphatic system is congested where her immune system lies. So it sounds like to me that she's at that point where, you know, her toxic burdens are more than what her lymphatic system can tolerate and can handle. And so now she is having symptoms. So the best therapy is the assisted lymphatic therapy. And there are clinics all over that can do that. So she can contact me directly and I can give her the closest therapist, or you can, we do have equipment where you can actually learn how to do the therapy on yourself.
Yeah, and then she can become a specialist in Indonesia herself.
Right,
Yeah.
she can. So, you know, we would train you to treat yourself with a therapy, and it's, you know, it's fantastic. But it does sound like, you know, whoever's telling her that it's sluggish lymph is probably more than that. It's a sluggish lymph due to just extreme body burden. And we would want to kind of discover a little bit, you know, what is it? Is it heavy metals? Is it a combination? There's certain viruses that will attack certain systems of the body. There's bacteria. And so that's why I do a lot of testing. I do biofeedback and I do labs, and I want to see what your imbalances are, because just a slight change in your minerals can, you know, cause you to swell. You could be eating something that you think is healthy, but it's robbing you of certain critical nutrients that's throwing your chemistry out of balance, you know. So many times, you know, like high blood pressure, a lot of people struggle with that. Well, they hear, well, magnesium's good for it. You know, magnesium lowers blood pressure, but so does calcium, so does boron. It depends on what you're deficient in. So you can't just say across the board, everybody needs magnesium, that'll lower their blood pressure. That's not true. And so that's where, you know, being a little medical detective really helps you get to the root of the problem, and you look at the person as an individual and not their label. Okay. So the label just helps us to organize them in mainstream medicine. Here's our group of diabetics. Here's our group of, you know, cardiac. And now they're in multiple groups because they not only have diabetes, they have heart disease, and now they have, you know, cancer. And so we want to stop that madness and really get down to the root of the problem. What is your problem? You know, what is her issue with her lymphatic system? What is the burden? Because if you don't get rid of the burden, she's going to be dependent upon these therapies the rest of her life. But if you get to the root of the cause, then you can eliminate the root of the cause. You can detox and repair, and she won't need these types of therapies the rest of her life. And so it's really the big picture of where you want to go and with it. And, you know, most people truly want to be healthy. They truly crave that physically, mentally, and spiritually. They want to be healthy, but they just don't know how to do it. And I don't believe God created us that we need to do everything on our own. He created us for community, to need each other. We need each other. Girlfriends need girlfriends, you know, we need our spouses. Children need their parents. We're all dependent on other people. And so we need to surround ourselves with like-minded people that are encouraging us in a healthier lifestyle. Don't hang out with the people, you know, same friends that go to McDonald's every day, 3 times a day. You know, if you're going to hang out with them, you're not going to live a healthy lifestyle. So there's behavioral changes that we got to make. And so I think it's great that you're doing that, because you need that community. You need that support. Don't try to do it alone.
That's right. You know, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And also, Dr. Grameth, I just remembered a class that we did together of the Zyto, where you can do a diagnosis just by virtually with a hand cradle that you can send somebody, and then it was like 45 minutes, it's reading the body, and it's giving you an idea of what's going on in that body. That's amazing. That was
we don't call it diagnosis.
Oh, but yes. Okay, I'm glad you clarified that.
It is an amazing tool that we use because it looks at every aspect of the body, and it looks at the mental aspect, the physical, and the environmental, and it tells us what's out of balance and why. And then it helps us to prioritize detox and support for you. But then that's why we can back it up with labs and other things that are really considered more diagnostic. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that puzzle piece finder. And so we're able to, oh, there's another piece of the puzzle. Let me put
Yeah.
that there. Okay, now I see the picture. Now I see what
Yeah.
the problem is. It's right before your eyes, but you didn't have all the puzzle pieces fit together. And
Yes.
so that's what Zyto helps me to do, is to find those answers, ask the right questions, with
Yes.
the individual. And it can be done virtually. I work with clinics all across the country. So
Yeah. And if anybody wanted to do that, what is the cost for that?
it's $295 for a comprehensive.
$295. And well worth it. Very well worth it. Okay, so Kimberly, hey Kimberly, I'm so glad that you've joined us today. She says, do parasites affect our lymphatic system? I am interested in the use of off-label like fenbendazole. I just ruined that. It's fenbendazole and ivermectin for cancer and COVID. What do you think?
So parasites affect every system of the body, definitely affects the lymphatic system. I see a lot of clients. I know it's in the lymphatic system many times when they are struggling with restless leg, because those are more of the nocturnal parasites that are in the lymph. And so they get really active at night. And so many times people diagnosed with restless leg syndrome, that's a lymphatic issue with parasites. So yes, I mean, parasites are linked to cancer, diabetes, heart disease. I was reading this amazing book. It's a medical textbook. Nobody's, it's not like you're going to probably fall asleep with it, but it's stuff I like. But Dr. Mark Houston wrote this, and looking at, parasites that come out of the heart, and these long, huge parasites causing disease. They're in your gut. They can get in the brain. They're in the lymphatic system. They can get in your organs and glands. Parasites can cause everything to malfunction just as same as viruses can. Bacteria, the little spirochetes that are associated with Lyme and the co-infections, they just kind of barrel into your cells and your tissues in your brain and just cause it to die. They cause the tissue to die. And so that's why you need to know, okay, is it parasites mainly? Is it bacteria? Is it virus? Because if you just go and try to treat parasites and it's not solely the parasites, it's other things as well, then you're still going to struggle. So you can always, play the guessing game and try to, do it. And I like those. They come with side effects. These prescription or the counter anti-parasite formulas. But I think if you're going to use that, you need to be monitored with a natural doctor or a practitioner that knows what signs to look for. And so make sure you don't have any kidney damage or liver damage or toxicity from it.
Yes. And Kimberly is a practitioner. And so I would love to introduce the two of you as well. Paris wants to know, although Paris, you didn't put a Q, I did notice that you had a Q question mark, but she wants to know if distilled water, she says distilled water is supposed to be the best water to drink, true or false? I have reverse osmosis. So what do you say?
It really depends on what your purpose is. It is the cleanest water. It has, everything's taken from it, including minerals. So I'm not a huge advocate of just drinking distilled water, because I know that it robs certain minerals, and the imbalance of the minerals and amino acids in the body is what causes a disturbance and disruption and creates inflammation and so forth. And so if you're going to drink distilled water because you feel more confident that, it's purified, it doesn't have the industrial chemicals, the pesticides, and all the things that tap water will have, then I say, okay, drink the distilled water, but make sure you add back your minerals, because you can get in a whole lot of trouble because the mineral deficiency is a big problem. Reverse osmosis, that's great. And most people will do that too. Some people do the alkaline water. as long as it's filtered, it's okay. And you want to look at your tap water in your area and what's in it to know what type of filter you actually need, and then do a comparison and get the filter that will filter out those toxins that you're, yeah. And so I have a Berkey. I like it here at the office. And so there's inexpensive to very expensive, ways to filter your water, but do not be drinking, your 64 ounces of tap water a day, because you are just going to be piling on
more chemicals.
And toxins, and just speeding up your disease process. Same as if you're eating non-organic foods.
If you go to my website at whenyouneedafriend.com and you go to the shop now, that's where my affiliates are. I use an over-the-counter reverse osmosis where you don't have to, drill into if you live in a place where you cannot drill into your water supply or water system, you can take purified water and distill it, and they have where they can add minerals to the water as well. And so check it out. You get 10% off if you use it. If you're interested, anybody who's interested can check it out. Okay, so Kimberly wants to know, do you use like rebounder therapy for stimulating the lymph flow?
Yes, most definitely. Rebounding, the little, we call it a jiggler, but the turbosonic little plates, that shake your lymph. Those are also really good. But, those are things that you can just get a little mini trampoline, and you just need to bounce. You don't have to lift your feet off of it. Just bounce. Get a Pilates ball and bounce on a Pilates ball, anything to move your lymph, because like Lillian said, it doesn't have an automatic pump. If you don't move, it doesn't move, and you become like a stagnant, nasty pond, and you're just breeding bacteria and infection in the body. We all have areas of infection. Every one of us has some type of infection in the mouth. That's why we really push oil pulling. Because your teeth lead to infection in other areas of the body too. Heart, around the wisdom teeth area. And so digestion, there's all these issues that people have in the mouth. And so you definitely got to get your lymphatic system moving so that your immune system can recognize this infection and get it under control.
Yeah. So oil pulling, so you obviously recommend that. Organic oil, I am assuming. How long do you keep it in your mouth?
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Because I've heard 20 minutes, and that's just too long.
I know. Most people won't do it. You got to do what people will do. Any minute is beneficial. Okay. So, 5 to 10 minutes you can do. I usually tell people, just put it in your mouth before you jump in the shower, swish it around while you're, in the shower, washing yourself, and then you can spit it out.
Yeah, but don't spit it out in the shower. Spit it out in your trash can or the
toilet.
Yeah, because it'll clog up your sink. Okay, or your shower, your drain. Okay, so Sherry has a question. She says, is juicing necessary to get the level of fruit, vegetables that the doctor recommends?
So it's not, as long as you can eat 12 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, it's totally fine. I find it very difficult to eat that many. And, just looking at the research, and they actually, Lillian, they did a huge study on, because we used to tell people 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. And then we saw, oh no, everybody's still malnourished. And so they did a huge study with thousands and thousands of people over a long period of time. And then they pulled all the other studies. And I think they looked at 2.1 million cases of participants. And of those participants, 47,000 had heart disease, 81,000 cases of stroke. Cancer was 112,000. And so they measured how many fruits and vegetables, and they increased their fruits and vegetables in one group up to 10. So they had them eating 10 fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables, a lot of greens, and they reduced their risk of coronary heart disease in a shorter period of time. I think it was like 3 months. They reduced it down, and these were already chronically ill. they reduced it 24%.
Wow.
And stroke 33%. In overall mortality was like 30-something% in a short amount of time
Wow.
doing that. And that's not even the 12 to 15 servings, that's only at 10. And so most studies show that just eating 12 to 15 is what you need to maintain health.
Wow.
Okay. So even more when you're dealing with a chronic disease. So that's really why I push juicing, is because it's difficult to get that in, and you need that nutrition. It's not about just getting rid of the bad things. It's about pouring the good things in to your mind and your body. And, and that's going to help the body rejuvenate it, because if it's malnourished, it can't rejuvenate the tissue, the organs and glands. You can stop putting toxins in, but you're still not going to get enough nutrition to get well, and then not have a concern of a reoccurrence too.
Yes, absolutely. It is so, everything that we can do to help our body heal is so crucial. It's spirit, mind, and body. People, there are people in this world that think that emotions have nothing to do with our health. What would you say to people like that?
They've got a lot of unresolved emotions that is making them delusional, because emotions have everything. I knew that back in the medical field, and that's it. It prompted me to go back to school to become a psychologist, because I started, working with these very sick individuals, whether they had heart disease, cancer, diabetes, or some other type of autoimmune disease, lupus, things like that. There was always an emotional trauma, or there was something that, just kept coming up in conversation and creating a lot of the inflammation. And so if you listen to Dr. Schrader, you will know that if you don't sit there and allow yourself to process through, which we don't like to do because we live a very fast-paced, busy life, and we really don't want to process all the things that frustrate us, or all the the injustices that we feel, have been, how we've been hurt. And so we just push it down. And so when you push it down, you're pushing it down into your body, and then it gets trapped in the breast. And over time, it can lead to, fibrocystic breast disease or a breast cancer. It can go down into the gut. You can just swallow down, all your disgust, and just goes into the gut and causes dysbiosis and gastric disorders. The liver holds anger. And so I always know when we're doing assisted lymphatic therapy on someone, you get to the liver and it feels like quicksand. Well, that there's definitely an anger issue, no doubt. So
wow,
you got to deal with that. And it's going to cause dysfunction wherever it settles in the body. And so you got to make sure that, that's a cause, and you're a doctor of cause. You got to get rid of, the cause. So you have to help your clients deal with the emotional aspect of any trigger, or any little red flag that shows up. There's always an emotion component tied to it, in my opinion.
Dr. Lorraine Day says that 99% of all disease begins in the heart, emotionally. And when I heard her say that, it just stuck with me. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that's how I designed the whole I Am the Solution. I want us to dig into the heart and to really, be our own medical detectives, our own MD, where we can, because it's really easy to see the speck in somebody's eye, but very seldom do we want to investigate the plank on ours. And so this weekend is a loving weekend of true research of who we are and all those different layers of our body that's trapping any emotion, and being able to release it. Not just to, lose weight, but release it. What's causing the weight? Everything is it just all works together. And I love how when we talk about the lymphatic system, we're not just talking about the lymphatic system, because it affects everything, just like our emotion affects everything. And the sooner we get to the fact that every aspect of who we are was beautifully created to work in harmony. And at the moment we are in what's that word? I had it in the top of my head. You're in like, gosh, what is the word? Robert, if I wish Robert could tell me what that word is, because I always say you're in, it's like you're not accepting what is.
Denial.
Denial is a word. It starts with a D, and I know if Robert is listening, he'll text me and he'll be the savior of the world. But if he's not listening, he's in trouble. No, but you're just like blocking it because you are not in harmony. And there's a word that is up, and it's just left my mind. And so the whole weekend is centered on embracing everything about us. And with the lymphatic system, I think what's so beautiful about the lymphatic system is that we can manage all of that. We can manage sweating. It takes me a long time to sweat. Let me just put it this way. It takes me a long time to sweat, but I can go on the trampoline on my rebounder, like Kimberly had suggested. I can go on there and be able to get rid of or make it that stagnant pool of lymph juice get a little bit better. Talk a little bit more about the resistance. It starts with a D.
DR, doesn't matter.
That's why I couldn't think of it, because I was thinking of D words.
Sorry about that.
Resistance. Thank you, Robert. Now I know he's listening.
Yes. Good husband.
He is a wonderful husband. Okay. And okay, so Discord. Okay, that's a good one. And okay. So Kimberly wants to know, and Kimberly, like I said, I can introduce you to Dr. Grameth. Can you name the doctor whose textbook you showed? Okay, that was
Dr. Mark Houston.
She is an avid reader. I would be surprised if she hasn't read it. So
it's integrative cardiovascular medicine, and it's a great textbook to have to really, kind of, that's the problem with mainstream medicine. I mean, it's great for emergency, but when dealing with chronic disease, it lacks greatly, because we look at, in that field, we look at the person in fragments. We don't see a whole person. Mm-hmm. If you go to the cardiologist, he sees the circulatory system. That's all he sees of you, your circulatory mm-hmm. system. If you go to the gastroenterologist, he sees your, gastrointestinal system from the esophagus to the anus and nothing else. And you go to the neurologist and he sees your brain and spinal cord, nothing else. And I experienced this with my sister. I experienced it working in the field, but really hit home to how confusing it could be for patients who go and have multiple symptoms in different systems. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I took her to the neurologist. She had right side paralysis, and I took her to the neurologist, and she had feeling back in, that area. And we're like, yay, you're excited. That's great. There's some rejuvenation in the brain. It's good that you have feeling. And then that very day, we left the neurologist with, great news that things look like they're doing well, and went to the gastroenterologist, who told us to, put her on a nerve blocker, because she was having some gut issues now that she actually had feeling in her gut. And she couldn't figure out, well, she says, well, you don't have celiac, and I don't think you have this. Well, let's just try a nerve blocker and just stop your feeling. And that's going to solve your problem. And I said to her, because I was just like amazed. I'm like, we just left the neurologist's office with good news that her brain and her gut are connecting, and her brain and her arm, is working, and you want to stop that because you don't know what's going on. And she's like, oh, that's probably, you're probably right. We probably shouldn't do that. Thinking, had I not been there, and not everybody has a sister who, works in both sides of it and can take you to, a doctor's appointment. So just the confusion that a lot of patients feel by going to their doctor. Number one, they're rushed in there and rushed out like a herd of cattle. And that's one thing that really bothered me when I worked in internal medicine, cardiology, oncology, is because our doctors would start walking into the room and then start backing out of the room because they only had a fraction of a few minutes to get in there, get information, get out, go to the next one, to meet all of the, see all the patient's needs. And you cannot meet their needs with, no interaction. And, so if you have a doctor and you only get to spend 2 to 3 minutes with them, you need to find another doctor that has time to sit with you and listen, because the most important relationship into determining what's going on with you is your relationship and that little consult interview with your doctor. And they need to be asking all kinds of questions about what you're thinking, feeling, what happened prior to your symptoms. I mean, if to truly get an answer. And that's what we don't take time to do, unfortunately, except for functional practitioners.
Yeah, and Dr. Jennifer Gramith is a naturopathic doctor, and she's also a certified lymphedema specialist. She trains others. So if you ever go to to get a lymphatic massage or go get to a lymphatic therapist, chances are Dr. Gramith has trained them. So you're getting it straight from the one who's training all these other wonderful people. So this has been such a wonderful conversation, Dr. Gramith. It's almost as if it's the first time we've ever talked, because I've learned so much. I mean, that was one question that I've always wanted to ask you, is how many lymph nodes do we have? And, I want people to understand that our body is perfectly made and we muck it up, because we don't know any better. We just think that, the food that we're going to be eating, even though it's been approved, that it's going to be healthy for us, but we're not. We need to get rid of all these lies that we've had. And again, like my registered service mark says, you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against you taking the pill. Rather, I am for you doing everything you can to heal your body naturally. So before we go today, Dr. Grameth, is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to say before we go?
I just think that one thing is, not to give up. If you fail one day, that's okay. We all fall short. That's the human race, that's human nature. And we just got to get back up in the next day, and we got to try harder. And we got to try harder. And you got, like I said, just get a community of supporters, of people like-minded that really are striving for health and wellness, and, distance yourself from people who really bring you down until you're strong enough, to handle it. Because, I know you can't divorce your family. You can't, there's certain people in your life that probably drain you, that, you don't want to totally, but get strong enough and get enough other people in your life that are encouraging you, building you up. And, if you're unsure, get with a natural practitioner, to whether it's a naturopath or, an acupuncturist. Chiropractors now are doing a lot of general wellness, and you got a lot of functional doctors out there throughout the US. And so there's really no excuse in this day and age, because now you have telemedicine. You can see a doc, of your choice anywhere.
Hey, listen, the telemedicine that I have in on my my sponsors page is, for family practice, dermatology, and 3 hours a year for the entire household. I mean, it's unlimited. The telemedicine is unlimited for the entire household, and dermatology for the entire household, and 3 hours a year for the entire household of behavioral health counseling for $19.99. So
that's awesome.
You
can't
can't
beat that.
We did a class on that, and there were people like, well, how many times can I see the doc? If anybody in the family, as many times as you want. So check it out. It is a gift. It is a gift for my listeners. $19.99 for that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. With telemedicine. So you're doing telemedicine as well.
And I've been doing telemedicine even before COVID, because I work with practitioners all over the country to help them, because my specialty is the immune system and helping people to get their immune system at their optimal health, rate. And so it doesn't matter where your immune system is. If you've had, 30 lymph nodes removed, there's still ways that you can circulate the existing immune system in that existing lymphatic system for optimal health. And so I help set that up. So I've been doing that the entire time, and it just has grown tremendously during the time of COVID. And I think that we really need to educate people too on, don't buy into this fear, of this virus. It's really no different than any other virus or bacteria that we've, been exposed to. What you need to focus in on, and not in a fearful way, but in a very positive way, you need to just focus on your health and getting stronger and healthier and boosting your immune system. And, that means eating healthy and exercising and meditation and walking. And I mean, all of that is, and those are things that you can do yourself. You don't need a doctor to do. And I'm telling you, we would be out of business if most people would do that. And, or we could all be, on the beach together. I don't know. But I really do wish that people would change their mindset, change their life, and let me retire. That's what my goal is. I'm almost 50 and I'm ready. I'm already thinking retirement.
Yeah, but you never retire. You'll find something else to do. I know you. But this has been a great conversation. I hope all of you have felt empowered to really become your own medical detectives, your own MDs. And I'm not telling you not to consult your doctors. I'm just saying that within yourself, I've had Dr. Matthew Tenney was just in the classroom on Tuesday, and he said, if you talk to a patient long enough, they'll tell you what's wrong. So if you can just talk to yourself, talk to God, to your higher power, and really just start honing in. And, a place where you could start doing that is I Am the Solution on February 5th, 6th, and 7th, because it is a powerful weekend of self-discovery in a loving way, not in a shaming way. We're looking at everything as a beautiful opportunity for growth. So it is time. It is time for us to take our health back. And I am so grateful that I can do that with you, Dr. Grameth. And thank you so much for being here today. For those of you who want to learn more about Dr. Grameth, if you're a subscriber, you already have our information. But if you're just tuning in today for the first time, you want to go to rightwayhealthandwellness.com, and they're in Georgia. They're in Woodstock, Georgia, and their number is 404-474-2100. That's 404-474-2100. Thank you again, Dr. Grameth. I absolutely adore you.
Oh, I adore you. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, guys, we'll see you soon, and have a wonderful, now next week's going to be another powerful group of lessons, teachers coming in the classroom. So enjoy every minute of learning, because education is power, especially when